Hello my friends, welcome to the next recap video. We're going to be talking about how life was in October through December of 2025. There was not all that much that happened during those months. I did do some traveling as always and recorded in the studio. But the big thing is going to be movies because I really ramped up my movie watching. If you remember from the previous recap videos, which you can go check out on the playlist that I made for those, I was watching a lot of movies nannying, and then this is getting a little ahead of myself, but I ended up switching nanny families and we watched a lot fewer movies, but I was watching a lot of movies on my own, and so we have a lot of those to talk about, as well as music and life stuff and travel and everything. So I'm excited to jump into it. In October, I did switch nanny families. The nanny family I had before moved away, and so I switched to a family I babysat for before, and that was great. I am kind of a nanny and house manager for them, which is really great for me because whenever I am a nanny or babysitter, I always want to clean their houses, but I know that's not the priority, and so that's part of my job now, and I can rationalize it more. And so I do a lot of organization and errands and everything, but also hang out with the kids, and it's great. We got to go on a trip to Gatlinburg, and that was cool. I went to Dollywood, and we hung out at a cabin. Unfortunately, after that Gatlinburg trip, I did get strep throat from one of the kids. I hadn't had that since middle school or high school, and it was not fun. I don't know if you remember the last time you've had strep throat, but I could not swallow anything. I didn't enjoy it, and I actually had a doctor's appointment scheduled that week when I ended up having strep throat, and I was like, I can't cancel a doctor's appointment because I have strep throat. It's a doctor's appointment. So I still went in, but it was horrible because then they were trying to draw my blood and I hadn't had any water, and it was just a whole experience. So would not recommend. We got to go to Gentry Farms, which is a really cute fall orchard kind of vibe. I also went and visited Charlotte, I believe for my mom's birthday. That's where my parents live these days, and so it was our first time there since my parents had moved, and we got to just see Charlotte. I had never been. I don't know. It was kind of uneventful. We just got food and hanging out with family is good. I was in the studio a bunch recording my second EP. And then there also was this thing at my apartment complex where they had a door decorating contest for Halloween, which would not be my MO if not for the reward they were giving. The winner of the door decorating contest got $500 off of their rent. So I definitely was decorating my door, and I did not win. I didn't even place, and I was so bummed because I put in effort, but whatever. That's fine. It was worth a shot. I saw The Outsiders at TPAC. That was fun. I had listened through the soundtrack once or twice and wasn't incredibly impressed. I know it has a huge cult following, but I think it's mostly people who are just obsessed with the boys in it. I do love a good man, but they just were not my style, I suppose. But it did surprisingly move me. I was in tears by the end of it, and I did not expect to be, so that was cool. I love when a musical makes me cry. For music that month, I was really into the new Olivia Dean album. I had listened to her first album before, wasn't super into it, but then that album just was so perfect, and I love how she really encapsulates every kind of love in it, and you can find something for everyone. It's so cool. That dominated my most listened to, but I also was listening to a lot of Not for Lack of Trying by Dodie, and then Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, Hayley Williams. Those three albums were just all I was listening to that month. And then for movies, I watched Matilda with my nanny kids. That was the musical version. I had never seen it, and I love that the younger one is so obsessed with Matilda now. I am trying to raise them to love musicals, and I think I'm being successful. One of them loves Matilda, the other one loves Six, and those, funny enough, are at the bottom of my musical theater fave list, but we're working on it. Their mom hates the Phantom of the Opera, and they love it, so that definitely is good. I watched The Hangover. I was just in a mood for a raunchy comedy, and I think that's what I got. I don't really care about that movie very much. We watched Descendants. My nanny kids had never seen that, and so that was at the end of my Disney phase. As a kid was Descendants. I remember it coming out and watching it. I also showed them Muppets Most Wanted, which is unironically one of my favorite movies. I love it. It makes me laugh. I love the musical numbers. I love all the celebrity cameos. It's just so good, and it's way better than the first Muppets. I mean, as far as the sequels go, the new installment of the Muppets. I love that movie. I watched Edward Scissorhands because I wanted something kind of Halloween-y, but I am not big on horror at all. I can do like a thriller. I love a psychological thriller, but I cannot do horror. And so I just wanted something a little spooky, but like really tame. And so that's what I got with Edward Scissorhands. And it was even tamer than I thought it was gonna be. It's so sweet. And poor guy, like, he just really has issues. Like, people just don't treat him well. I felt so bad for him. I watched Holmes and Watson with my family. That was nothing. It was another one of those Will Ferrell just pumping him out kind of movies. Do it for the check. I watched Oppenheimer over 3 days when I was in Charlotte because my dad has this TV that is massive. He just like is on a journey to see how big of a TV he can get. And my parents live in like a 3-bedroom apartment, but this TV takes up the entire wall. It's crazy. So I was like, okay, I think I can finally watch Oppenheimer on this. This is probably a good enough TV to watch it on, because when Oppenheimer came out, I was like, I'm gonna see it in IMAX. And then all the IMAX showings were sold out, and I lived on Cape Cod, so I had to drive an hour in order to get to an IMAX theater, and I just never saw it. And I wanted to watch it on a great TV, so I did. It was phenomenal. It was really, really good. It didn't have the Nolan thing where it has that sense of mystery and intrigue, but that's because, you know, he was writing it based on a true story. It wasn't his own idea, but just brilliantly acted and directed, and the cinematography is gorgeous. It was really great, but I did have to watch it over three days, but it gave me time to process, so that was nice. And I feel like I learned a lot about the Cold War. And then the last one was I went and saw Stitchhead in theaters with one of my nanny kids. That was fun because we were the only ones in the theater, so she was like totally acting out and it was okay. I don't remember anything necessarily. I did not write any songs or read any books in October, so let's move on to November. In November, I was in the studio a lot more too. I was working on that EP with Ben, doing a lot of marketing and everything for that now. If you have a blog that you want to feature it on, if you have a radio station, if you want to send me $1 million for it, let me know. Wicked for Good came out that month, and I got to see that the Wednesday before it released in Dolby, and it was so good. I cried so much. The person who was sitting next to me at the end of the movie was like, sad movie, huh? And I was like, dude, this means a lot to me. I'm sorry. I also had trips to New York and Charlotte. So for New York, I had bought my dad tickets to see Leslie Odom Jr. in Hamilton for Father's Day, I believe. As soon as that was announced, I got on the website and bought those tickets. I was so excited, and Hamilton is his favorite musical, so of course we had to go. I'd seen it twice, he's seen it like 7 times, and it was absolutely surreal. It was so cool because watching the pro shot of it, you can see a lot of how Burr is kind of like Hamilton and his like excited, naive, uppity kind of vibe. And then watching it on stage now, 10 years later, he was so composed. He had this like moral superiority to Hamilton where he was like, I'm older, I have more experience under my belt. He moved slower. He moved with more intention. And it was really cool to see that juxtaposition, also because we had an understudy for Hamilton that night, and you could see how young, scrappy, and hungry Hamilton was compared to this very tenured Burr. It was just so cool. And then at the end, that was the show where Renee Elise Goldberry and Lin-Manuel Miranda walked out on stage to sell some posters and things, and we just absolutely lost our minds. It was so cool. Totally worth the money, totally worth the trip. I'm so excited I got to do that with him. We saw a good handful of other shows too. We got to see Chess, which was incredible. Nicholas Christopher is insane. I love Aaron Tveit, and obviously have watched Glee and love Lea Michele. But I went into it for those two, and then Nicholas Christopher was the best performance of the night. He is just insane, and Lea Michele too is perfect, and Aaron Tveit is just fun, but his performance is incredible. If you haven't heard him sing, go listen to that album. I've been listening to it again lately. It's just so good. The musical itself is a little meh, but the performances delivered were absolutely phenomenal. My dad, my sister, and I went and saw Gruesome Playground Injuries at the Lucille Lortel because we wanted to see Nicholas Braun in a play. I love him. My family loves Succession, and so we had to go see Cousin Greg, and it was really, really good. I really liked that play. I felt like Nicholas Braun and Carrie Young really told the story story well. It wasn't a big production. They didn't necessarily fill the space, but that wasn't what the play was supposed to do. It was supposed to just be like tension between these two people and in their relationship, and there's supposed to be space missing, and they really did that well. And just like the content of the play, I really enjoyed. I don't love the like miscommunication trope thing that happens in a lot of books and modern literature and plays and things, but there's just something about it when it's done well that's like, oh, this is humanity, and I love when they keep trying despite it. I don't know, I really liked it. I really liked that play. We went and saw the Rockettes. They had just started doing their Christmas spectacular. It's whatever, but gets me in the Christmas spirit, and I love Christmas. So I had a good time with that. I went and saw the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Funnily enough, it was between that and Ragtime were my two choices. I did end up seeing Ragtime, and I'm very glad that I did, and I wish I had chosen Ragtime the first time, but you know, I've seen them both now, so we're good. But 25th annual was very fun. I loved the audience participation and the kind of like ad-libby stuff that they did. Lots of really fun performances. Kevin McHale, and I don't remember, the guy that was in Kimberly Akimbo was really great too. It just was a really good time. I had a blast. And it feels like you're at a spelling bee, like they get you so involved. And then the last one I saw was this play called Art. It starred Bobby Cannavale, James Corden, and Neil Patrick Harris. And I had been watching a lot of How I Met Your Mother around that time, and so I wanted to go and see Neil Patrick Harris in a play. And the play itself I found really boring. It felt like it just really was surface level, like existentialism and like how do you have friendships when you don't agree with them, but it did not go very deep. It was like it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be emotional or a comedy. And then just to throw this in there, at TPAC I saw Beauty and the Beast that month, which was just a good time. It, you know, I hadn't seen it, and it was a random play that was touring, but it was fun to see it, fun to go to a show. Yeah, and then Charlotte I went for Thanksgiving and got to hang out with Mully and my family. My sister, she convinced me to start entering giveaways. She has a funny story where she went to a Two Hollis concert and she like got destroyed in the pit. Like people were trampling on her, she had crazy bruises, it was wild. And then she decided to enter another Two Hollis giveaway and she won it. But she couldn't go because it was for tickets in Las Vegas. But she was like, yeah, I enter giveaways all the time. Sometimes I win. And so she got me entering giveaways. And the first week that I was entering giveaways, I won for Leith Ross tickets. I went and it was real. It worked. I got free Leith Ross tickets and that was a wonderful show. It was so good. Annika Bennett opened. I read Twilight for the first time. My best friend loves those movies. It's her favorite movie series to show people and to see the reactions. And I had never seen any of it. I knew very little about it, so I decided to read it. And honestly, they're kind of addicting, even though they're really bad. Like, just what is going on? It is like peak teenage girl, you know, where Bella just keeps making horrible decision after horrible decision. But they're just funny to read. It is fun to laugh at them, and they're kind of addicting because they're easy. And then let's talk about movies. So I got into the Now You See Me series in November. I don't know, there's something about those kind of like Twilight where they're just easy, and if you can suspend your disbelief, they're just so fun. I love Jesse Eisenberg. I think he's so silly. Woody Harrelson is great. And so I just had a good time with it. And it's like, I don't know how magic works. So when they're like, this is how we did it, I'm like, of course that's not how you did it, but this is how you did it. I'm such a logical, rational person that I just need to check out sometimes and allow myself to be amazed instead of thinking about those things. And that's what I did with those movies. So I watched Now You See Me and Now You See Me 2. And I wanted to see the third one in theaters, but I did not have Regal Unlimited yet, so I did not do that. I watched Frankenstein on Netflix. I didn't love it. But I am kind of a Guillermo del Toro hater. I mentioned that in the last video when I talked about The Shape of Water. I just don't love how he like romanticizes weird creatures, and I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that he felt ostracized and wanted to show creatures that weren't necessarily like loved in the public sphere being loved by someone. You can very clearly tell that that's the moral, but like I feel like we can make that come across with people. We don't need to do that with monsters. And obviously, like, I've read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and that is wonderful, a wonderful book, but it just felt like a glamorization a little bit of that. There were some beautiful shots in there, but otherwise I wasn't really a fan. I watched Wicked for Good again. I went in theaters with my dad and my sister over Thanksgiving, which was lovely. My sister and I in New York went and saw Begonia, And we both were just like, we want to see a movie. What can we go see? And we were like, oh, this is an interesting premise. You know, a CEO is not who she says she is. And then I was deeply disturbed. My sister is okay with horror movies, and so she was less deeply disturbed, but she was also deeply disturbed. Dude, spoilers, please don't go watch it. The shocking her scene absolutely messed with me. My sister told me I needed not look when there was like the brains in jars thing. I saw like a head in a jar, and that's when I stopped looking, and I don't know what else was in that scene, but she does, and she was disturbed by that. Again, spoiler, skip if you don't want this, but I found the fact that she was an alien in the end so counterintuitive, because it's like, I thought the whole point was supposed to be that those guys are crazy for holding her in the basement, and that they're like taking it a step too far when her real sin, I guess, is just how corrupt her company is. But then making it actually an alien story makes them correct, which is like, are we justifying doing this kind of thing to people? It messes with the ideal of dismantling corrupt power structures because they're just gonna be aliens. And like, I could have seen if she won in the end and it was like, yeah, okay, corrupt power structures will probably always win, and it's just like a pessimistic take. But then she's an alien and destroys the world. It's so stupid. But the last 5 minutes were awesome. I found that incredibly moving. That was really cool. It didn't feel like the movie at all. It felt so distant from what Begonia was doing, but if that was like a short film, I would have loved it. I watched Charlie Brown Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. I love Charlie Brown. There's just something so charming about it. I think it has the perfect balance of that like low stimulation, peaceful, happy thing, and then like the kids are a little bit sassy, and I do love that. Like the dialogue balances out the aesthetic and the style and the vibe. My family and I watched Nacho Libre. It had been such a long time since I watched it in its entirety, and we quote that all the time. It's my mom's favorite movie. She hates rewatching things, but that is the one thing that she will rewatch over and over and over, and we all have so much of that movie memorized, so it was fun to rewatch it because I've just been taking it in bite-sized pieces the last couple years. I watched the Jingle Bell Heist. I don't remember that at all. I think that was the Olivia Holt one. I don't know. It's these random Netflix ones. But I was starting to watch Christmas movies, and I was just trying to watch as many as possible and like always have them on as ambiance. So a lot of these movies are going to be that. My sister and I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. I hadn't seen that in a while. It was still as mid as I remember it being. I don't know. I just don't like the creepiness of it. And like, I'm not a big stop motion claymation person. I watched The Princess Switch. That was a good background movie, but I'd never seen it, so there was that. I like the movies that are like a step above Hallmark, because Hallmark movies I can't do. They're way too cringy for me, but like the Netflix Christmas movies, that's where I like the cringy level. It's still super cringy, but it's not like as cookie cutter. You know, it's Michael's instead of Hobby Lobby. I watched Wicked for Good again. I think I went in theaters with my nanny kids. I watched A Very Jonas Christmas Movie. I loved that. I had such a good time with that. And it is cringy, and everybody I've shown it to, which is multiple people, has been like, that was a train wreck. And I'm like, no, it was such a fun train wreck. Just some of the songs in there go so hard, and then it's in Amsterdam, and I miss Amsterdam so bad. I love it, so I got to see that. And then like the scene where they're all talking about like their problems and how they feel misunderstood, and then Kevin just doesn't sing anything because he just wants to sing is so funny. It's gold. It's so good. And then I watched The Family Stone, which I'd never seen, and that is so charming. Just has that like lighting of that era of movie in Christmas that's just so warm and welcoming and inviting. December was pretty tame. I was working, of course, was doing a ton of Christmas present shopping. I went a little overboard. I do have a section of my budget that I use to buy gifts and buy people food and donate and whatever, but I definitely overspent that. But it was so fun. I just kept thinking of people to get presents for and kept thinking of ideas. I ended up buying presents for everybody's dogs. Got so into the Christmas spirit, and it was my first Christmas living alone, so I think I was really trying to do it for myself. I also went to Cape Cod for like a week and a half or 2 weeks just to hang out with family and rest, and that was cool. I actually really did rest, and I put my phone away. For the most part, I just left it upstairs when I would go downstairs, and watched a bunch of movies and did puzzles and played games with my family and read. It was lovely. It was so, so nice. That was the month that I discovered Novo Amor, which is really cool because his song Years On inspired one of the songs on my EP that I wrote when I was like 15, but the style that we went for with it is super Novo Amor-y. So it's cool how the song is something that I wrote a long time ago, but the style is now, and I could incorporate that into it. So I'm excited for you to hear that. I also got really into Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. Of course, I'd listened to it before, and No One Else is one of my favorite musical theater songs. It's everyone's favorite musical theater song, but I had never really discovered Dust and Ashes, and that song is incredible, and it just moved me so hard. So I was listening to that whole album a lot. Of course, If We Make It Through December by Phoebe Bridgers. That's a lovely Christmas song. Definitely my favorite Christmas song of hers. And then Leslie Odom Jr.'s album, Simply Christmas. I'm always listening to a ton of Leslie Odom Jr. in December because I just love his Christmas stuff. It's so good. All right, the final thing to get through is the movies in December. But guys, I think I watched like upwards of 40. It was nuts. Because I put my phone away on Cape Cod, right? And so I was just watching movies, and I had movies on in the background while I was wrapping presents. And I didn't even log all the movies I watched. Like, I had to be paying a minimal amount of attention to them in order to put them in my Letterboxd. And so these are all the ones I actually was paying a little bit of attention to. There are so many. Are you ready? I watched Twilight with Rachel, because I had just finished the book, and I hated it. It was so bad. It's so blue. The music is insane. The acting is horrible. I understand why people like it ironically. I do not know how you could like it unironically. It's so awful. That's one of those things that, like, getting into it now, I'm missing the craze of it, and maybe I was supposed to read it as a teenager, and that's when I would actually enjoy it. I watched Taxi Driver with my friends at a movie night, and I didn't love that. I do think there's something interesting about the fact that they give you no context for that character's life. You just are forced to grapple with how his decisions and the ways that he acts, what kind of person that makes him in real time, not necessarily how his life has led them to make those decisions. You can tell that, like, something has happened to him to make him act that way, but we don't get to know what that is. And so it's like, to what extent can you justify someone's actions if you don't know what is causing them? Which is interesting, but also it made me enjoy the movie less because I didn't have a reason to root for him, and I wanted one, and so I was just like, this guy sucks. I watched Wicked for Good again. I don't know when that was, but I was just watching it a bunch. I watched While You Were Sleeping. I was not obsessed with that. I do love a Christmas movie that doesn't have to be explicitly Christmassy, like that is more of a romance than a Christmas movie. But I don't love Sandra Bullock, and the guy in it wasn't that attractive to me either. So I watched Just Friends. That was another Netflix one, so went right over my head. I don't remember what that movie was, but I watched it. I watched I'll Be Home for Christmas. I don't know what any of these are, actually. That's the one with the kid, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Cool, I guess. I don't know. I watched A Very Jonas Christmas Movie again. I had my friend Lane over to do a bunch of Christmas prep and just have cookies and hot chocolate and vibe, and we watched that. We also turned on The Search for Santa Paws, which I found very bad. I thought that was like a popular Christmas movie, but it was giving like really old Disney Channel where like they hadn't figured out their niche yet. I watched The Nutcracker in the Four Realms. That was the kind of movie that was like really beautiful to look at, but there was zero plot, there was zero script, there was zero acting. It was really just like the color grading, the cinematography was really pretty, but that was a shame because I wasn't totally watching it. I was kind of wrapping presents. I watched Home Alone 2. I didn't watch Home Alone 1. Actually, maybe at all that month, but Home Alone 2. I didn't know if I'd seen it, and I definitely had, but we turned it on because I didn't know if I had. I watched The Grinch, the Jim Carrey version. That's my favorite version. So good. I love it. It's just like, it was camp before I knew what camp was. I watched Xmas. Maybe that was the Alicia Silverstone one. Oh, no. That is the chick from Gossip Girl, Leighton Meester. They just made that for infinitesimal sense. I did watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas, so that is the animated one. Actually, can I tell you something? I think that might have been the new one. I think that might have been the Benedict Cumberbatch one, because I think I watched that when I was nannying. I do not like that. Benedict Cumberbatch does not have Grinch vibes. I'm sorry. Doesn't work. I do love that style of animation. I watched The Happy Elf when I was nannying. That was so random too. That was this thing that Harry Connick Jr. made to have a bunch of his Christmas songs in it. So it had amazing music, but the animation was horrible. So awful. It's like really short, and the script is horrible. There's no plot. So it's like some really good songs and then just everything else is trash. So just go listen to the Harry Connick Jr. Christmas album and call it a day. I hadn't realized that The Search for Santa Paws was actually a prequel to Santa Buddies, and so I watched that, and I think that was slightly better than Santa Paws because it was an original, but still, it It was not great. And I love dogs, but I guess it was just like stock photos of dogs that they like edited to move their mouths, you know, which I think is literally what it is. I went and saw Zootopia 2 in theaters with my nanny kids. That was fun. Definitely felt like a sequel. There are some sequels that really live up to their original source material or exceed it, like Muppets Most Wanted, but that was not one of them. Zootopia 1 is way better. And Zootopia 1 like covers some insane social and political stuff. And then Zootopia 2 is just like snakes. I watched Last Christmas, and I really liked that one, actually. That was another really random Christmas movie, but I just found it so moving. There were lots of cheesy moments, of course. I hated the tie-in with the song, but the fact that, like, she met this guy, and then, spoiler alert, but it was the guy that, like, gave her his heart. I guess that is cheesy when I say it that way, but it caught me by surprise, and I found it really, really charming. I watched A Merry Little Xmas. That has to be the Alicia Silverstone one. It was very mid, if I remember correctly. I think she is not in her prime, and she's trying to be, but she's not. She was in her prime with Clueless, and it was kind of a one-hit wonder. I watched Wake Up Dead Man on the plane to Cape Cod. I love that movie. It's so good. For one, Josh O'Connor, amazing. He's just so charming. He's so fun to watch. He's just a lovable dude. Of course, that is the role that he played, because in Challengers, he's a little problematic, but I do love Knives Out too. I love a little murder mystery that all resolves itself easily at the end. The thing about this movie was the religious commentary, because I loved the conversations between them, because you can tell that there were feelings involved, that they had deep emotional resonance in the things that they believe about their faith, but they still had these conversations, and even if they weren't always polite conversations, they always had ways to justify the things that they believed in a way that would allow the other person to continue to believe what they believe, I guess. I don't know, just really compelling arguments for faith. That's the kind of faith that I have, is there's stories that help us to believe in something bigger than ourselves, to look outward, to make life not just about us, but about other people too, and to become more humble, to become more gentle, and to just be able to recognize that there is power beyond us, that our experience is not the only one to be lived, and that should motivate us to kindness and to peace and to reach out. And I believe that those stories are true, but whether or not you do, that's the point of faith, is to draw us together and to make us better people. And I just love the way that movie presented it, because it was such a shameless way to represent faith. I mean, obviously not in the Monsignor, but just not shame-oriented, but love-oriented, and I loved that. So, big fan of Wake Up Dead Man. I watched The Christmas Chronicles. That was fine. That was a passive watch. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, I've talked about this before, but I love it. I'm the only person in my family that loves that movie. It's like 40 minutes. It's not really a movie, but I just love it. I think it's so funny. I think it's so charming. I love the song. So I always make a point to watch that around the Christmas season. My family and I watched Spirited. My parents love that movie. I really liked it the first time I watched it, because it's a musical. It's Will Ferrell. It's Pasek and Paul, you know? But every year that we've watched it since, my parents sing it more and more around the house, and I get exhausted of it. And I'm finding that all Pasek and Paul sounds the same. Dear Evan Hansen was revolutionary, and then the more that they put out, the more it's like, oh, all these songs are the exact same formula. So I'm a little tired of them, but I'll always watch it once. Of course, we had to watch Who Killed Santa, a Murderville mystery. I've talked about that one before on here, but I just love that one. You gotta go watch that. I'm just gonna reiterate what that is. If you've watched all these recap videos, which I would be so impressed if you have, you know what it is. But Will Arnett, he's like a detective trying to solve a murder, and he brings on these people to help him as assistants, and they're all celebrities. Will Arnett and all the extras have a script that they're trying to follow, but the celebrities are going in completely blind. And so it's so funny to watch them all choreograph this murder mystery, and then the celebrities are just along for the ride. And this one is Jason Bateman, Maya Rudolph, and Pete Davidson. Sean Hayes is also there. It's so funny, and the ending is better than any of the other episodes that there are. It kills me every time. It's so good. He licked himself silly and stuck it in his gut. We watched Elf. That's my favorite Christmas movie. I love it. It stands the test of time. It's so good on every rewatch. And I watched It's a Wonderful Life for the first time. I'd never seen that. I'd seen a musical version, and it was very horribly timed, because it was around when someone I knew passed away by suicide, and so definitely did not feel appropriate. But the movie makes more sense. I feel like the movie deals with that subject matter way better. I liked it. It's one of my dad's favorite Christmas movies, so it was fun to watch that with him. We watched Christmas Vacation. I hate that movie, but my dad loves it. He just loves those movies where everything goes wrong, or like the TV shows. His favorite episode of The Office is the dinner party. He just loves when disaster happens in movies like that, and I hate it. I hate watching that movie, but whatever. It's very quotable. We watched a Charlie Brown Christmas, of course. I already said how I feel about him. I love Charlie Brown. We watched The Santa Claus. I believe that was a passive watch. We watched The Holiday, and I had seen that before, but it just really worked for me this time. I don't know, maybe I was feeling lovesick, but the music in that is so good, and the vibes are so good. It's just so sweet and so charming, and like has a lot of different kinds of love in that too, kind of like the Olivia Dean album, that like everybody can find something that resonates with them. So I loved that one. We watched The Muppet Christmas Carol. I tried to start that multiple times throughout the month and just never finished it, so I did finally finish it. It was fine. I feel bad. I feel like I should like the old Muppet movies, but I just don't. I like the new ones. My sister and I realized we hadn't watched Eurovision in a really long time. I think we watched it when it came out and then never again, but we quote that a lot too. And so Macy and I just watched Eurovision by ourselves, and it's so funny. It's so good. We watched Wake Up Dead Man again. I think my parents really liked it too because I wanted to show them, and they have a similar approach to faith that I do, so that was fun to watch with them. We watched The Roses. We were looking for kind of like a mix between a comedy and a drama, which that definitely was, but I think it was more drama than we were setting ourselves up for, but that's okay. That's the kind of role I like to see Benedict Cumberbatch in, not the Grinch. My sister and I watched Avatar for the first time. Neither of us had seen it, and we knew that a new one was coming out. We were like, why don't we do this and experiment? And I left it being like, okay, that was fine. It was too long, lots of blue, but I can understand why people would freak out about that in its time. And my sister had a similar opinion until she became absolutely obsessed with it. And she still is. Like, she is looking for Avatar merch wherever she goes, and they don't have a lot of it, so she buys a lot whenever she does find it. She projects Pandora onto her dorm room wall before she goes to bed every night. She's really into Avatar. She plays the video game all the time. So that unlocked something in her when we watched that the first time. Oh, we watched The Way of Water as well. That was just more blue people. Fire and Ash, I believe is what it's called, the third one. I saw that in theaters once I had Regal Unlimited, and that was my favorite, but I think it was mostly because I was sitting down and paying attention the whole time. It just looks like a lot of blue if you're not really paying attention, and you really need to follow the plot. And I feel like the plot isn't hard to follow if you're paying attention, but it's hard to pay attention for that long. My family and I watched I Don't Understand You, which we only watched because it was Andrew Rannells and Nick Kroll. Great people. I love Andrew Rannells, and Nick Kroll is wonderful too. The movie itself was like a train wreck. They kept making horrible decisions, but I like them. So, bad movie, good people. Macy and I watched the Minecraft movie. Neither of us had seen it, and we kind of wanted to hate watch it, and it was pretty bad. She plays Minecraft still. I grew up playing Minecraft, and so there was the nostalgia factor of it, and I love Jack Black, but it was a lot. It felt like a YouTube short. I watched Wicked for Good again. I watched it a lot, you guys. Jeez. And then I watched Materialists by myself, and I really liked that one. I didn't really expect to like it, and I've talked about Dakota Johnson, how I find her very chic, but I don't really love most of the roles that she's in, but I still like watching her just in case. And this was one where I felt like she actually did a really great job and like had a role that was really good for her. I love a love triangle, you know, had that kind of romanticizing living alone in New York thing that I like to take after. I watched The Darjeeling Limited. I had not seen that Wes Anderson movie yet. It feels very early Wes Anderson. It feels like super scrappy. You know, he gets some really great actors and then they just like filmed a vlog. I don't love it because I think Wes Anderson does better when he has the funds to execute his vision. I watched The Fantastic Four. I was kind of having a Pedro Pascal moment. I hadn't seen that yet, and I try to keep up with Marvel a little bit, but I didn't really pay a ton of attention to it, if I'm being honest. I was packing boxes to send back home while I watched it, but we're caught up on that at least. I still have a lot of Marvel TV shows to catch up on before I'm like really caught up, but the movies I'm up to date on, thankfully. And then my family and I watched Knives Out because my mom couldn't remember watching the first one, and so we had to watch it, and it was fun. That's it. I feel like I blew through this. I am really getting into a rhythm with these recap videos, and there's gonna be able to be one more, the January through March of 2026, and then it's May right now, so we still have 2 months to get through before I can make another one. Yippee! So then we will move on to songs and some other things that I have in my noggin for you. But yeah, thank you for watching. That was the ending of 2025. Lots and lots of movies. Let me know what other movies I need to see. I'm being better about my Regal addiction. I was going so much at the beginning of the year, and now I'm going like once a week, which is way healthier because I need to be working on music stuff. I love consuming media, but I'm trying to make media too. Engage with it so I feel like it is worth something. I love you. I hope you're doing so good, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.